How to Play the Guitar and Why. Written by Elvis Costello. Based on the dawdlings, noodlings, and musings of the little hands of concrete. There comes a time in a young man's life when all he needs to do is talk to a young woman. But how can he engage her in conversation, gain her attention, win her favor? I'm thinking of that teenage time when you were not likely to get very far if all you could think of to ask was, who is your favorite hermit, beetle, or monkey? After all, you'd be immediately putting the image of John, Paul, George, or even Ringo, Herman, Mickey, Davy, Frankie, Jimmy, or Bobby in the pin-up gallery of your sweetheart's mind. And no one needs that kind of competition. Then, in 1968, a slightly more fashionable line of inquiry hove into view. It came courtesy of songs in the hit parade from Hair, the American tribal love rock musical, which announced the dawning of the age of Aquarius. It started a trend for Zodiac-inspired songs, culminating in the Diana Ross and the Supremes hit, No Matter What Sign You Are, written by that noted astrologer, Berry Gordy Jr. The somewhat mystical question, what sign are you, might have been an ideal chat-up line had I not been born under the sign of Virgo. What cruel fate to be born just days after the house of noble Leo had passed. What could be worse for a teenager lacking in confidence or any experience than to have to answer this question, what sign are you, by stammering and mumbling under your breath? Actually, I'm still a Virgo. It was only after several years of pop music infamy when I discovered that my birthday was being acknowledged in one of the shabbier newspapers that I began to look unashamedly for some astrological kinship in my dispositions and talents. Over the years, I became more and more convinced that my career was written in the stars. I shared not just the sign of Virgo, but my very birthday with such luminaries as Leonard Bernstein, Wayne Shorter, and Gene Simmons, with whom I shared an interest in lipstick, mascara, and pancake makeup. My animal magnetism and suave demeanor was surely something that I shared with another man born on August 25th, Sean Connery. And when it comes to being magnetic, who picks up iron filings better than Billy Ray Cyrus? Billy was a right Virgo. Then I scanned the pages of more distant history, and the whole damn theory fell apart. All of the above shared their birthday with Ivan the Terrible. Ivan, as his full name suggests, was not especially fond of composing, dancing, playing the saxophone, or being especially suave. He did, I suppose, have a sense of both showmanship and a penchant for gore and terror, the clue being that he was the firstborn son of Mr. and Mrs. Terrible. Of course, this is not strictly an historical fact, but like most facts today, just something made up by somebody. Another thing that is not strictly an historical fact is that Ivan had a musical brother. We'll call him Dennis. Dennis the not-so-terrible. Dennis was a callow youth, given to versifying, spooning, mooning, and was probably something of a Virgo, like most men who showed no disposition for carnage, pillage, conquest, or poisoning their rivals. He whiled away the hours playing the guitar, the balalaika, or the lute, a stringed instrument which had its origins in ancient Mesopotamia, beloved by Persian poets and the writers of Elizabethan madrigals before being invented by Sting. One day, between picking sinews of raw goat from his teeth, Ivan rounded on Dennis and went into a formidable rage, bellowing, "Will you stop playing that effing lute?" Only in Russian. "It's not a lute," said Dennis timidly. It's a guitar. There was an ominous silence. Then Ivan hissed in a venomous whisper. Well, at least you could have the decency to show me how to play a chord of F. You see, this chord that dare not speak its name has confounded braver, more intimidating, not to say more terrifying souls than you, my dear listener. Dennis tried to be kind, as was his nature, placing the gnarl-scarred fingers of his older sibling upon the perfumed cedar fingerboard of the guitar. Dennis stood back. His eyes darted from his brother's fearsome gaze, then back again. He gave a weak smile. Then, in an extravagant sweeping movement, gestured that Ivan should strike the strings downwards across the face of the instrument. The noise that emanated from the sound hole can only be rendered in onomatopoeia, or in the original Russian, or at least in its musical form. There was a crackle from a log in the large fireplace of Ivan's room, but the next sound that was heard was something like the mother-of-pearl inlaid instrument was hurled and then dashed against the pointed metal spike at the center of the shield behind which Ivan's chief bodyguard and poisoner, Gleb, had been cowering at his master's uncontrollable rage, while Dennis beat a sensible but silent retreat in his yak-skin moccasins. So it is with the mysteries of the guitar for most tyrants, dictators, and certain peculiarly sadistic dentists. It also explains why the world is filled with murderous killers, despots, and people with tiny, sinister mirrors, rather than being graced by an abundance of simple strummers and pluckers. This audio pamphlet hopes to redress this regrettable imbalance.